Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? So this is mostly going to be a sort of test video since I have recently moved away from my old Chinese workstation to this Hakko 951. I've been playing around with some of the tips. I actually used these particular soldering tips with that Chinese Hakko station, or Chinese station, I guess I could call it. It was sort of a Chinese clone, which is completely broken and foobar now, so I'm not going to be using it anymore. Anyway, so for this particular video, I'm going to be installing the PicoBoot into this Nintendo Gamecube. Maybe I could use this as sort of a continuation of the Gamecube series that everybody hates, including myself. I have flux solder. This is a 6040, I believe, or something similar to that. For my soldering tip, I'm using this sort of curved edge that I tend to prefer. It's kind of my go-to for these types of very small projects. It's manageable. I also have to my left over here the wiring diagram. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I have a Gamecube here. This is going to be a DOL 001 unit. Just for historic purposes, we can see the sticker down here on the bottom, DOL 001 USA. And you can also tell by looking at the back of the console, it is only the 001 units that have this component output port. Actually going to put this aside for a second, along with my, this is a small table. Make sure that doesn't fall. Gonna put that aside for a second, take a closer look at the individual chip itself at this point, along with some of the wires I'm going to be using. It looks like these are these pre-tinned? Huh, they actually might be. But I'm sort of suspicious of that, so let's go ahead and pre-tin these wires. And all of this being said, I do not think that this particular video is going to be, fast or slow or whatever it is, because this is probably going to be a long video, even though this is typically a pretty short process. Thinking about it, I probably should have just tinned these wires before. Hindsight's 2020. So typically what I do to just pre-tin some wires, here I have some rosin flux, just sort of stick it in. Now the points are fluxed up. This doesn't want to close. Well, ignore it. Okay. I did pre-tin this, so. Maybe a little bit more solder actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and if those are not good enough, we can always touch them up a little bit later. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Also in this packaging, I have, of course, the chip itself, as well as some double-sided sticky tape pads that I can be getting a little bit creative with a little bit later. This is an SD2 SP. It plugs into the bottom of the console. I'll be doing that later. So before I begin as well, this PicoBoot is already flashed with the software, and I actually didn't explain what this does. So the PicoBoot is a Gamecube mod chip, which enables functionality beyond the original. I'm forgetting the name of the original. Oh, it's called the Xeno GC, and this expands its capabilities. So it's a standalone chip. I know that based on what I said, it probably implies that this works with the Xeno GC. To my knowledge, I don't know if it does or not, but here we have the PicoBoot. It has already been flashed with the Swiss and Gamecube software, so it should be able to play backups and do all the other fun stuff. And this is the SD2 SP, which you basically place backups on the SD card. You put it into the bottom of the console inside one of the serial ports, which I will show a little bit later, and then load the data that has already been populated on this, which I've done from before. This is an 8GB card. If you're going to be using your GameCube for more games, then you should probably get a larger card instead of that. Oh, that's not fun. Huh. Come on. No, let go. They almost look like love bugs or something like that. Okay. No, all those have been separated. Let's go ahead and move that to the side. Move all of these things to the side and take a closer look at this. Actually, I think a critical question. Solder to the chip first or solder to the console? Solder it to the chip first, actually. Take a closer look at this wiring diagram. Okay. So GP6 and GP7 are going to be bridged. So let's go ahead and do that. Where are they? There it is, 6 and 7. Okay. Let's actually see if I can just put a lot of solder on those 2 points. Checking the camera to see how close I can actually get to this. That is the maximum amount that it zooms. That is not ideal. Let me see something here. Yep, that is the maximum amount that it zooms. Okay. Hands. Okay. There, it's all set. Now, moving on to that. Let's go ahead and move this chip to the side. And then disassemble the console. Okay. I went through a disassembly on our previous video, so should not be too difficult if you have the correct bits. Yeah. believe it's this one. I think it might actually be pretty cool to make one of those ASMR videos, not just talking, but without talking, just going through a disassembly or installing a mod chip or something like that. That might be pretty cool. It's on the main board, yeah. Okay. Okay. Danger, danger. Let's not do that. Sure are a lot of screws. Okay. We can go ahead and move the disk drive out of the way. And now we need to move the heatsink. There are a couple of thermal pads under this heatsink that like to rip whenever you lift the heatsink out. So what I would recommend, which I actually have not done here, unfortunately, is before you do this mod, just let the console run for a little bit. Just turn it on and let it run so that it could heat up enough. But if you didn't do that, then you could still just take each corner with your thumb and forefinger, gently move it from side to side to begin to loosen it. You want to do this very gently. Do not lift to the board. Do not try to rip it out. Gently shimmy from side to side to make it loosen. Just be gentle. Very gentle. Yeah, not exactly the easiest thing to do without ripping the pads, but you do want to be careful because they are pretty strong. I wasn't as successful on this attempt, but at least we could see from this chip. I'm not going to be replacing the pads. I think they're fine as it is, but you can if you would like. I'm not particularly keen on that. Actually, Huh. Will you look at that? That's very considerate of them. I did not know that that was gonna actually come with it. I could go ahead and get some isopropyl alcohol and go ahead and do this. Replace those. Let's see. So the first thing that we are going to be doing, visibility is probably not going to be great on this. Going to go to, let's see. It's going to be over here, this chip, or on these contact points. We need to ground these 2 points together. So I think what I'm going to do is pause the video here, get some Q-tips and some alcohol, and I'll be right back.